Right, so CBS News Chief Washington correspondent Major Garrett is here in Studio 57 with me. Talk a little bit more about where we are,
early.
which is days to go. So we're lucky to have you here. So let us talk about Donald Trump in Iowa. Why was he campaigning there?
Because there is some sense that Charles Grassley, up for re-election, might be in some trouble. It's a bit of a defensive move for the Republicans and former President Trump, underscoring that this is, yes, a net positive environment for Republicans, but there's also an undertow of anti-incumbency. So if you're an incumbent, you need to be protective. And Donald Trump had a rally in Iowa to make sure, if he can, Charles Grassley gets reelected.
And in his speech, he suggested that indeed he was going to run again.
Yeah.
But he hasn't outright said it. No official declarations. But is it significant that he said this in Iowa?
Sure, because Iowa was the first on the calendar in the nominating process for Republicans. It may not be for Democrats anymore after the debacle in 2020, but it will be for Republicans. And former President Trump, if you remember, in 2016, lost narrowly in Iowa. He wants to win Iowa if he runs again. Talking to those in the Trump inner circle last night, he's going to spend election night at Mar-a-Lago. There'll be a couple of very prominent Republican and Trump fundraisers there, a small team that will probably be part of his re-election campaign team should he announce. And the idea currently is, and of course with former President Trump, there's always that unexpected dimension, but probably sometime late November, early December.
Okay. The other thing that he did.
No one in that inner circle is any longer ambivalent about what he's going to do. They feel very much like he's going to do it. He's made that decision. It's just a matter of timing, structure, and presentation.
Okay, that's good. I was going to ask you outright, but you basically made it clear that it's pretty much a done deal. Done deal.
Done deal.
That was not a Freudian slip. That was just me not having enough coffee. Another thing that he said, though, that I think is somewhat concerning is that he urged his followers to monitor the polls. The reason it's concerning is because we've seen people monitoring polls with guns, and
in one
that's
place,
unnerving.
in one place,
yeah.
in a couple of precincts in Arizona. First, and I know a little bit about this. I've just written a book about all of our election procedures and how they work. We already have poll observers. It's not as if America lacks for poll observers. How do we know this? Because both parties, Republicans and Democrats, in almost every jurisdiction in the country, train them, assign them, and they're there. And they're there to watch together, and then if there's an issue, bring it before an election administrator on site and have it resolved. We already do this, but what the former president is talking about is you've got to hang out over there or watch ballot drop boxes or sort of get into this process late in the game. The idea of asking people to be observant is not a problem. I don't have any problem with that. And I don't want to over-exaggerate what he's talking about. But the idea of those in the Trump movement showing up late in the game, not really understanding how the process works, and then possibly either acting as harassing forces, chaotic forces, or just intimidating forces is a real possibility. And that doesn't help Trump supporters. It doesn't help anyone who's voting Democratic or any other way. It just gums up the works because there is already a built-in process that both parties recognize and participate in to observe what's going on.
Right. Put your name on the list, sign up, and you can be part of the process. You don't have to just show up. We've talked about this before, but I think it's worth sort of repeating. CBS News has identified over 300 Republican candidates running for election that are essentially election deniers. You heard the president's speech last night. He brought the same thing up again. I'm wondering how much pressure some of these candidates. It's difficult to determine if we're talking about true believers or if they feel like this is what they have to say in order to get elected.
So it's a really good question because on that list of 308, there is sort of a continuum. There are some who say it was an absolute crime, it was a fraud, the election was completely stolen. And then there are those who say, I have questions, I think there were irregularities, there were some rules changed I'm not comfortable with. But in that entire 308 number, they don't accept as legitimate what was a legitimate election. Yes, former President Trump won, but lots of Republicans won down ballot for House races, Senate races, and state legislative races. Were those elections fraudulent? You never hear a denier say that. Never, even though it's on the exact same ballot with the exact same process. That's one of the great structural flaws of this argument. Former President Trump said something last night that really needs to be highlighted. He said, I never should have left the White House. Yes, you should have. In a constitutional republic, when electoral votes are counted, certified, even when that certification process is disrupted by a riot you set in motion, yes, you have to leave the White House. If you believe in this country, you believe in the Constitution, and you believe what this midterm election is likely to reveal, that Republicans do very well, how do we know that? Because we cast and counted ballots. And that process is good and solid and verified. And when you undermine that for your political benefit, you are harming the country.
Yeah. Major, I think Tuesday is going to be a really long night. It's going to be, that Tuesday is going to last 4 or 5 days.
In some jurisdictions, that's probably true.
Yeah.
We'll know the results in Arizona and Nevada certainly by Wednesday morning. We'll certainly know them in Florida early on Tuesday night. Pennsylvania will be late because they have a lot of mail-in ballots. They can't begin to process them until Election Day morning. Same is true in Michigan and Wisconsin. If those races are close, it's going to take a while. And in some jurisdictions, if turnout is very high, it may take a little while. We have to exercise patience and understand that just because it takes a while doesn't mean there's any flaw in the system.
Right.
Election administrators have one overriding rule: accurate is better than fast.
I like
and we
that.
have to give them the space to be accurate because they know they're under a spotlight. They know they're being scrutinized, and they know everyone is watching and feeling the stakes are so high, and this is an existential election. So you got to get it right. Give them the space and the time to get it right.
Yeah, and don't fill the space with conspiracy theories.
Or volatility or violence.
So true. Major, thank you very much.
My pleasure.